Did you know that over 1.5 million New Yorkers already spend more than half of their income on housing? And rising rents, skyrocketing property taxes, and economic pressure are pushing even more families to the edge. Experts warn that millions could lose their homes in the next few years if current trends continue. From gentrification sweeping neighborhoods to natural disasters threatening entire boroughs, the city's housing crisis is far worse than most realize. Imagine waking up one day to find your apartment unaffordable, your mortgage unmanageable, or even your home at risk of foreclosure. Today, we'll uncover 10 shocking reasons why this nightmare is becoming a reality and what it could mean for every New Yorker. Number 1. Skyrocketing housing costs. New York City has always been expensive, but in recent years, housing costs have reached unprecedented levels. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan now exceeds $4,000 per month, while home prices across Brooklyn and Queens have skyrocketed as well. For many residents, this isn't just a number on a page, it's a daily struggle to keep a roof over their heads. Families that once managed to pay rent comfortably are now forced to choose between housing, food, and healthcare, making the dream of stable living almost impossible for millions of New Yorkers. The surge in housing costs is fueled by a combination of limited supply, high demand, and investment trends that favor luxury developments over affordable units. Data from the NYC Rent Guidelines Board shows that nearly 30% of renters are spending more than half of their income on rent, a level economists define as dangerously high. Even homeowners are feeling the strain, with property taxes climbing alongside skyrocketing market prices, forcing many to rethink whether staying in their homes is financially feasible. Neighborhoods that once offered community and stability are now becoming increasingly exclusive and unaffordable. For residents, there are ways to mitigate the impact of these rising costs. Those renting should explore rent-stabilized apartments, city housing assistance programs, and legal protections that prevent sudden evictions or excessive rent hikes. Homeowners can appeal property assessments, investigate tax relief options, or consider co-op housing solutions to reduce monthly expenses. Awareness and action are critical. Ignoring the warning signs could lead to displacement. Without intervention, millions of New Yorkers may soon face the harsh reality of losing their homes, not because of choice, but because the city's housing costs have become simply unsustainable. Number 2. Wage stagnation versus inflation. While housing costs keep climbing, the wages of millions of New Yorkers have barely increased over the past decade. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average salary growth has struggled to keep up with inflation, leaving families with less purchasing power despite working full-time jobs. For many households, this means that even a stable job no longer guarantees the ability to afford rent or mortgage payments. The gap between earnings and expenses is widening, forcing families to stretch every dollar just to cover basic needs like food, transportation, and utilities. This imbalance has a direct impact on housing security. Families spending the majority of their income on rent or mortgage have little room for emergencies. A sudden medical bill, job loss, or unexpected repair can push them to the brink of eviction or foreclosure. Studies from the Urban Institute show that nearly half of middle-class households in New York are now financially fragile, meaning that even minor economic shocks could jeopardize their homes. Vulnerable groups, including seniors, single parents, and immigrant families, are particularly at risk, as they have fewer resources to absorb financial stress. To protect themselves, residents must take proactive steps. Strategies include budgeting carefully, exploring supplemental income opportunities, and staying informed about wage adjustments and housing programs. For tenants, knowing your rights, negotiating leases, or seeking rent assistance can make a significant difference. Homeowners should consider financial counseling, loan refinancing, or property tax relief options to maintain stability. Without these actions, the ongoing mismatch between wages and inflation could push millions of New Yorkers closer to the harsh reality of losing their homes, highlighting how deeply interconnected the economy and personal housing security truly are. Number 3. Skyrocketing property taxes. For homeowners in New York, rising property taxes have become one of the most pressing threats to staying in their homes. In many boroughs, taxes have surged faster than incomes, leaving families struggling to keep up with payments. According to the New York City Department of Finance, some neighborhoods have seen annual property tax increases of 10% or more, which can amount to thousands of extra dollars each year. For families already stretched thin by rent or mortgage costs, these increases can push monthly budgets to the breaking point, making the dream of homeownership feel increasingly out of reach. The impact of high property taxes extends beyond numbers. It affects community stability. Long-term residents often find themselves forced to move to more affordable areas, disrupting social networks and local economies. Seniors on fixed incomes are particularly vulnerable, as they cannot easily absorb sudden tax hikes. Even middle-class homeowners must make difficult choices, often sacrificing savings, health care, or other essentials to avoid falling behind. Research from the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy highlights that excessive property taxes are one of the leading causes of home displacement in urban areas, and New York is no exception. Residents can take steps to protect themselves, but action must be informed. Homeowners should regularly review property assessments, appeal overvalued appraisals, and explore available tax relief programs for seniors or low-income families. Staying informed about municipal tax policy changes can also help residents anticipate increases and plan ahead. Without proactive measures, rising property taxes could force millions of New Yorkers out of their homes, turning the city's neighborhoods upside down. Awareness and preparation are crucial to avoiding the devastating consequences of this often overlooked housing crisis. We've poured hours of research into uncovering these hidden housing dangers in New York. If this video opened your eyes, hit subscribe now. Share your thoughts below. Which of these issues hits closest to home, and how are you coping? Number 4. Eviction rates on the rise. Even as housing costs soar, eviction rates in New York City are climbing to alarming levels. According to the Office of Civil Justice, over 50,000 eviction cases were filed in a single year, and experts warn that these numbers are likely underreported due to informal evictions and pressure on tenants to leave without legal proceedings. Families who once felt secure in their homes now face the constant fear of being forced out, creating a pervasive sense of instability and anxiety across neighborhoods. This is not just a financial problem. It is a human crisis affecting children, seniors, and working families alike. The increase in evictions is driven by multiple factors, including rising rents, gentrification, and landlords seeking higher profits. Neighborhoods that were once affordable are rapidly transforming into exclusive areas catering to high-income residents. Rent-stabilized apartments, which were meant to provide security, are dwindling in number, leaving tenants vulnerable to sudden rent hikes or lease non-renewals. Research from the Princeton Eviction Lab shows that eviction is one of the leading causes of poverty cycles, as displaced families face difficulties finding affordable housing, maintaining employment, and keeping children in the same schools. In New York, the ripple effects are visible in overcrowded shelters and rising homelessness. To combat this growing crisis, tenants must be proactive, knowing your legal rights, seeking assistance from tenant advocacy groups, and documenting any housing violations can make a critical difference. Programs like rental assistance grants and emergency housing funds provide lifelines for those at immediate risk. Communities and policymakers must also work to expand affordable housing options and strengthen tenant protections. Without intervention, eviction will continue to see millions of New Yorkers from their homes, tearing apart families and reshaping the city's social fabric in ways that could last for generations. Awareness, preparation, and action are the only defenses against this escalating threat. Number 5. Foreclosure risk on the rise. Homeownership in New York City is no longer the safe haven it once was. With mortgage rates climbing and household debts mounting, more homeowners are now at risk of foreclosure. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, even a modest increase in interest rates has the potential to push thousands of households into financial distress. Families who purchased homes with adjustable-rate mortgages are particularly vulnerable, as sudden spikes in monthly payments can leave them unable to keep up, threatening not just their homes, but their sense of stability and security. The foreclosure risk is compounded by economic pressures that extend beyond mortgage payments. Rising utility bills, property taxes, and maintenance costs all add to the financial burden, while stagnant wages and job insecurity limit the ability of families to absorb these unexpected expenses. Studies from the Urban Institute indicate that foreclosures are disproportionately affecting middle-class and working-class neighborhoods, not just lower-income communities. This creates a domino effect, destabilizing local economies, reducing property values, and increasing the risk of displacement for entire neighborhoods, leaving families with few options for safe and affordable housing. Preventing foreclosure requires both awareness and action. Homeowners can explore loan modification programs, refinancing options, and state-level assistance initiatives designed to reduce monthly payments. Staying informed about interest rate changes and mortgage terms is critical, as small decisions can prevent large consequences. Community support, such as financial counseling and legal aid, can also provide essential guidance for families in distress. Without proactive measures, rising foreclosures could force millions of New Yorkers out of their homes, reshaping the city's neighborhoods and leaving countless families searching for stability. Knowledge, preparation, and timely action are essential to navigating this growing housing threat. Number 6. Natural disasters and climate risks. New York City faces not just financial pressures, but also growing environmental threats that put millions of homes at risk. Rising sea levels, intensified storms, and severe flooding are no longer distant predictions. They are already reshaping the city's landscape. According to the New York City Panel on Climate Change, areas such as Lower Manhattan, Staten Island, and parts of Brooklyn are increasingly vulnerable to flooding, with projections suggesting that storm surges could affect hundreds of thousands of residents within the next decade. Homes once considered safe are now exposed to forces beyond human control. The impact of natural disasters goes far beyond immediate damage. Flooding and extreme weather events can cause structural damage to buildings, mold infestations, and loss of property value, creating long-term financial strain for homeowners. Insurance rates are also skyrocketing as companies adjust to the higher risk, further increasing the cost of staying in affected areas. For renters, the danger is just as real. Landlords may decide to sell or abandon damaged properties, leaving tenants with few options and no recourse. Research from the Urban Climate Resilience Institute shows that climate-related displacement is already contributing to an increase in homelessness, disproportionately affecting low- and middle-income families. Residents can take steps to protect themselves and reduce risk, but awareness is key. Floodproofing homes, obtaining adequate insurance, and staying informed about city evacuation plans can help mitigate some of the dangers. Local governments are also implementing resilience programs, zoning changes, and infrastructure improvements, but the pace may not match the speed of climate threats. Without preparation, millions of New Yorkers could face the devastation of losing their homes. To storms and flooding, a harsh reminder that housing security is increasingly tied not only to finances but also to the forces of nature itself. Being proactive is no longer optional, it's essential. Number 7. Rent hikes outpacing income. For renters across New York City, soaring rents are rapidly becoming unsustainable. Data from the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal shows that in some neighborhoods, monthly rents have increased by over 15% in just the past 2 years, while the average household income has barely budged. This growing mismatch between income and housing costs forces families to spend an ever larger portion of their earnings on rent, leaving little room for essentials like food, healthcare, or savings. For many, this creates a constant cycle of financial stress and uncertainty. The effects of these rent hikes extend beyond personal budgets. They threaten community stability and long-term residency. Neighborhoods that were once home to generations of families are being transformed as landlords prioritize higher-paying tenants or short-term rentals. Rent-stabilized apartments, which were designed to provide affordable housing, are disappearing under regulatory loopholes and market pressures. Research from the Furman Center for Real Estate and Urban Policy highlights that such rapid rent increases are one of the leading causes of eviction, displacement, and homelessness in urban centers. Families often face impossible choices: relocate to distant areas, overcrowd apartments, or risk eviction. Renters can take steps to protect themselves, but action must be timely and informed. Understanding lease agreements, knowing tenant rights, and monitoring local rent guidelines can help prevent sudden financial shocks. Programs like rental assistance, housing vouchers, and tenant advocacy organizations provide essential support for those at risk. Without proactive measures, the widening gap between income and rent could force millions of New Yorkers from their homes, reshaping the city's neighborhoods and social fabric. Awareness, advocacy, and preparation are essential to withstand the pressure of an increasingly unaffordable rental market, ensuring that families can maintain stability in a city that continues to rise in cost. Number 8. Aging infrastructure threatens homes. New York City's aging infrastructure is quietly putting millions of homes at risk. From crumbling bridges to outdated water systems and failing electrical grids, the city's foundations are showing signs of severe wear and tear. According to the New York City Comptroller's Office, decades-old buildings, especially in older boroughs like the Bronx and Brooklyn, are increasingly prone to structural issues that can compromise safety and livability. For homeowners and renters alike, this is not just a maintenance concern. It's a growing threat to their ability to remain in their homes. The consequences of failing infrastructure are far-reaching. Leaking pipes, unstable foundations, and malfunctioning heating systems can quickly escalate into major repair costs, forcing families to spend thousands on urgent fixes or face unsafe living conditions. In some cases, landlords may abandon buildings rather than invest in costly upgrades, leaving tenants vulnerable to displacement. Studies from the American Society of Civil Engineers highlight that urban infrastructure neglect directly correlates with increased housing instability, especially for low- and middle-income residents who cannot absorb the added financial burden. The ripple effects can be devastating, impacting entire neighborhoods and creating pockets of vulnerability throughout the city. Preventing disaster requires awareness and strategic action. Residents should inspect their properties, report maintenance violations, and leverage city programs designed to support building repairs and upgrades. Local initiatives such as capital improvement grants and emergency housing funds can provide critical relief, but families must be proactive to access them. Without attention to the crumbling infrastructure, millions of New Yorkers risk losing their homes, not to market forces or natural disasters, but to the slow decay of the city itself. Understanding these hidden dangers is the first step in protecting your home, your family, and your community. Number 9. Job loss and economic instability. One of the most silent but dangerous threats to New Yorkers' housing security is job loss and economic instability. The city's economy, once a symbol of resilience, is facing increasing uncertainty. Sectors like retail, hospitality, and small businesses, which employ thousands of residents, are experiencing slow growth or closures, leaving families struggling to make ends meet. According to NYC economic development studies, a sudden loss of income can quickly push households into financial distress, making it difficult to cover rent, mortgage payments, or even basic necessities. For millions, the loss of a job doesn't just mean a temporary setback. It can be the tipping point toward eviction or foreclosure. The ripple effects of economic instability go far beyond individual households. When entire neighborhoods face rising unemployment, housing markets become more volatile, with landlords and banks reacting to uncertainty by raising rents or tightening mortgage approvals. Families who once felt secure in their homes may find themselves vulnerable, with limited options for affordable housing. Research from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York highlights that neighborhoods with higher job instability experience significantly higher rates of eviction and displacement, especially among working-class and middle-income residents. This creates a domino effect, not just on housing, but on schools, healthcare access, and community cohesion. Protecting your home from the fallout of job loss requires both preparation and knowledge. Establishing an emergency savings fund, exploring unemployment benefits, and staying connected with community support programs can provide crucial safety nets. Additionally, being proactive about skills development and alternative income sources can reduce vulnerability in uncertain economic times. Without theos, EC measures, millions of New Yorkers risk losing their homes not because of rising rents or natural disasters alone, but due to the unpredictable shifts in the city's economy. Awareness, preparation, and resilience are essential to surviving these financial storms and safeguarding your family's stability. Number 10. Gentrification and displacement pressures. Gentrification has long been a double-edged sword for New York City neighborhoods, and in 2025, its impact on housing security is more pronounced than ever. Once affordable areas in Brooklyn, Queens, and Harlem are now experiencing rapid influxes of high-income residents, luxury developments, and upscale businesses. While these changes may boost the local economy, they also drive up property values and rents, putting pressure on long-term residents. Families who have lived in these neighborhoods for generations are suddenly facing displacement, unable to afford the rising costs of staying in their homes. The effects of gentrification go beyond financial strain. Communities that have built social networks, schools, and local support systems are being eroded, leaving residents isolated and vulnerable. Studies from the NYU Furman Center show that areas undergoing intense gentrification see increased eviction rates as landlords prioritize tenants who can pay higher rents or convert buildings into short-term rentals. This wave of displacement disproportionately affects working-class families, seniors, and minority communities, creating a crisis where the cultural and historical fabric of neighborhoods is being dismantled in favor of economic gain. Combating the negative effects of gentrification requires awareness and proactive measures. Residents can explore tenant rights protections, rent control programs, and community advocacy initiatives designed to prevent displacement. Engaging with local organizations and city officials can also help amplify the voices of those most at risk. Without these interventions, millions of New Yorkers could lose their homes, forced out not by their own choices, but by rapid urban change and unchecked development. Understanding gentrification's hidden dangers and acting early is crucial. For anyone hoping to maintain stability in a city that continues to evolve at a breakneck pace. The future of neighborhoods and the security of countless families depends on recognizing and responding to this growing threat. The reality facing New Yorkers in 2025 is stark. From soaring rents, job losses, and economic instability to natural disasters, aging infrastructure, and gentrification, the threats to housing security are unprecedented and interconnected. Millions of families are now vulnerable to losing the roofs over their heads, not because of a single factor, but due to a combination of financial pressures, environmental risks, and systemic challenges. Each reason we explored today is a warning sign, an urgent reminder that housing stability in New York is no longer guaranteed. What makes this situation even more alarming is the speed at which these changes are unfolding. Neighborhoods are transforming, communities are being displaced, and residents are being forced to make impossible choices. For many, the question is no longer if they will face housing challenges, but when and how severely. Understanding these threats is the first step in protecting yourself, your family, and your community. Knowledge alone won't solve the problem, but it equips you to take action before it's too late, making informed decisions about your home, finances, and future. While the challenges are daunting, there are practical steps New Yorkers can take to protect their homes and secure their future. First, financial preparedness is key. Building an emergency savings fund, monitoring expenses, and creating a budget that prioritizes housing costs can provide a safety net in times of crisis. For renters, understanding lease agreements, tenant rights, and local rent control programs can prevent sudden displacement and offer legal protections when needed. Second, diversifying income and improving job security can reduce vulnerability. Pursuing additional training, freelance work, or side income opportunities allows families to absorb economic shocks more effectively. Community resources such as rental assistance programs, nonprofit support groups, and local advocacy organizations can provide immediate help, guidance, and access to financial relief for those at risk. Third, preparing for environmental risks is essential. Flood-proofing homes, staying informed about city emergency plans, and having evacuation strategies in place can minimize damage during storms and climate-related disasters. Engaging with neighbors and local community boards helps strengthen networks that can provide mutual support during crises. Finally, advocacy and awareness are powerful tools. Being informed about city policies, infrastructure projects, and urban development plans allows residents to influence decisions that affect housing security. By combining financial preparedness, practical planning, and community engagement, New Yorkers can significantly reduce the risk of losing their homes and safeguard their families against the growing pressures facing the city. If this video opened your eyes to the housing crisis, share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Don't forget to watch our previous video for more insights into New York's unfolding challenges. We put countless hours into these videos, so please support us by subscribing. It's just one click and it helps us keep bringing you the truth.